So the last few weeks, I've been in a little mini series talking about the subtle distractions that the enemy is using to take away a man's focus from what truly matters the most. And that's living for God and living for God's purposes in your life. And we've taken a look at busyness, comforts, the pursuit of success. And now today, I want to wrap it up by talking about a big one, and that's the approval of others. Is your desire to be liked, accepted, or approved by others distracting you from truly living a life that is fully surrendered to God? And I can honestly say, this is a big one. It's a constant battle in my life. It takes intentionality. It takes being proactive. It takes attacking this thing over and over and over to keep ourselves focused on what matters the most. God created us for community. He created us to be relational beings. He's put in us a desire to live in relationship with other people. But man, sometimes the desire to be liked or the desire to be fit in can become a big time distraction from what really matters. Think about in the last week or two, how many decisions you made to please somebody else or to get their approval. And if you're being honest, it's probably a lot of decisions. I can honestly say this will drive a lot of my decisions if I'm not intentional about it. How many clothing items have you bought because you wanted somebody's approval? What about your car? Did you buy that to please people? Or what about your house or your apartment or even your career? Sometimes your career choice was made because you wanted the money to impress other people, or maybe it's because you thought it's what your parents wanted you to do or somebody else wanted you to do. Now, there's nothing wrong with fitting in. There's nothing wrong with having people like you. But when those things become your motivation and the driving force behind everything you do in your life, then it can actually become a problem. If you wake up each day just thinking about how you're going to get people to like you or how you're going to prove yourself to somebody else, then you probably aren't too focused on God and what he wants to do in your life, right? So that's where this can become a distraction from what matters the most. If the enemy can get you so consumed with trying to fit in, if he can get you sidetracked, just pursuing people's approval and what they think of you instead of living for God's approval and his purposes, then he can make you more ineffective. Anything, even if it's a good thing, that takes you away from living a life surrendered to God and to his purposes can be a distraction. So that's why I think this one is something you really got to be careful about, something you got to be proactive all the time and fight against. Searching for the approval of others or being worried about what they're going to think about me has caused me to not be as obedient or bold in my faith so many different times in my life. It's honestly sad looking back and seeing a lot of different opportunities I had where I was too worried about what people thought or too worried what they were going to say, so I didn't do what I knew I was supposed to do. So I'm going to be the first one to raise my hand here and say that this one has been a distraction in my life. And when I first started, with this mission to help men live intentional lives and to keep their lives focused on what matters, when I first got started, I was a little bit overwhelmed with fears about not being good enough, about being criticized possibly, about coming across a certain way, or about maybe failing and looking stupid if things didn't go well. Those were thoughts that were crossing my mind all the time, and they were paralyzing. They caused me to delay my obedience to the mission that I feel like God gave me. Those are thoughts that were all driven by living for the approval of other people, being afraid to share my faith because of what others might think of me. That's driven by my desire to fit in, driven my desire to get others' approval instead of being obedient to the Lord. So you can see how this can be a huge distraction in our lives if we let it. Always seeking the approval of others. It's a never-ending battle that you can't win. And I just read in James 4:4 where it says, "You adulterers, don't you realize that friendship with the world makes you an enemy of God?" I say it again. If you want to be a friend of the world, you make yourself an enemy of God. Yikes, that's a tough one, right? This is a tough verse. If you're so consumed with needing the approval of others, and that's all you're living for, then it says you're going to be an enemy of God. You can't fully live for others and fully live for God at the same time. You're living for one or the other. And there's so many warnings in Scripture about this. Another one is in Galatians 1, verse 10. It says, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." Okay, another tough verse. People who are constantly trying to win the approval of others are not usually serving the Lord. So take a quick look at your life right now. In the last week, in the last few days, have your decisions and actions been driven by God and his purposes, or have they been driven by a desire to win others' approval? And if it's been to win others' approval. Don't beat yourself up. It's going to happen if you aren't intentional. It happens to me all the time if I don't focus and actually proactively attack it. But make it a priority from today going forward that you're going to live for eternity, that you're going to live for God's approval instead of the approval of others. And then intentionally remind yourself over and over and over that you got to do this. Because if you're like me, you'll come out and you'll live for God for a week and you'll fall back into this unless you intentionally focus your life on the Lord each and every day. And here's a phrase I want to share with you that I've just kind of been repeating to myself often recently, and it's helped me kind of in this area to try to get some victories. And the phrase is to pursue private victories over public recognition. What you do in private ultimately reveals your character. What you do when no one is looking shows your integrity. So I want to get way more excited when I do something for the Lord when no one's looking, because it reveals that I care about doing it just for Him and not for other people. I want people who know me the best to respect me the most. I want the people who see who I am on a daily basis to see that I follow the Lord the same way, whether I'm in private or whether I'm in front of people. God literally, He's everywhere. He sees everything that you do. So are you the same person when you're by yourself as you are when you're in front of other people? And a lot of times when you're just living for worldly success, when you're just living for people's approval, when you're only doing things to be seen in a certain way, that's when you're going to act your best, right? There's pressure. You want to perform for people. You want people to respect you and to like you and to think about you a certain way. But that's not true character when it's done for them, when it's done for their approval, when it's done for some sort of public recognition. That's not where true character is shown. True character and integrity is being shown in private. It's being the same in private as you are in public. So I've been trying recently to put a lot more emphasis and weight on my private victories than my public ones, because I believe that reveals more of my motives and more of my character. So spending time in the secret place, alone with the Lord, by yourself, worshiping Him there and loving Him. It feels like a bigger win to me right now because I'm not motivated by anyone else's opinions. And I think, honestly, the more time that you have in public, the more time you need to spend with the Lord in private. The more you are in front of people leading, the more you need to be on your knees being led by the Lord. The more you're building your business or your ministry or your influence, the more you need to invest in that private, secret place. And I think the biggest wins in life are the private ones. When you choose to get up early and spend time with the Lord just because you love Him, that's a huge win. No one else is motivating you to do it. Your love for God is motivating you to do it. That's when you know it's genuine and something that you really want to do. When you decide to not cheat when no one is looking because of your integrity, that's a huge win. When you decide to spend hours developing your gift and your passion and growing that dream or whatever it is the Lord's put on your heart, and you're doing it and no one's seeing it, I think that's a huge win because you're being a good steward of what God has given to you. When you give generously, even though no one sees it, huge win. When you stick to your commitments that you made to yourself, even though no one sees it, that's a huge win. When you come home and you love your wife and you love your kids in the way they deserve, not just because somebody's watching you to see if you're a good husband or a good father, that's a big win. Start to get excited about living for private victories before living for the public recognition, because this is where character is developed. And it's a place where you can really start to break down this need for others' approval. Anytime you're in public, it should just be a reflection of all the hours spent in secret obedience to the Lord. It should be the fruit of all the hours you've spent developing your character and your passion for the Lord. Who you are when no one is looking is truly a reflection of your character, and it's going to show if your life is truly surrendered to the Lord or not. Live for private victories before public recognition. Live for the approval of God instead of living for the approval of others. Have those who are closest to you respect you the most. And we do this by keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus, waking up each day and saying, this is what I'm going to be about. This is what I'm going to live for. I'm going to intentionally focus my life around Him and His purposes. He's the author and the perfecter of your faith. He's the reason you're alive. He's the reason you have purpose. He's worthy of your time and your attention and your obedience. Everything that you have is from Him, and so everything you have is for Him. So let's be men that live for God and His kingdom above the approval of others. So I believe in you. I'm thankful for you. Can't wait to see how God continues to use you as you fix your eyes on what matters the most. Thanks for joining me today. Share this with somebody if you think it was helpful, and go live a life you're proud of by living intentionally.